Today's class, we're going to introduce a very, very important concept called loop. So, in our day-to-day work, we oftentimes have to deal a large number of files or a large number of Excel values or things like that. So we need to loop through all those values to process it, basically to get the things we wanted at the end. So the loop concept basically can help us build a Python program, loop through the files, loop through a range of Excel values, and loop through anything we can define in a range. So this is a very important concept. And by now, I think you might already being aware, like I do a recording for very important classes or very complex classes within our training program. So if you see my recording popping up for that class, please really pay attention to it. There are many different types of loop method we can do in Python. We will introduce in our next few sessions, we will introduce for loops, while loops, and range loops. And today's session, I'm going to introduce a very hard loop method, which is enumerate. And without further delay, let's go ahead and create a new file called loop intro.py. And I will simply copy my code in here and explain to you what this code does line by line. First, I have this variable called the invoice days, and those are representing those many invoices I have that with the due dates which I haven't received a payment yet. So, for example, the first invoice is 15 days after I send the invoice, and this one is 45, this is 62, 28, 90, and 70. And whenever you see there is a bracket, and this bracket including all those elements, so this is the data structure called list, which we will learn in our next few sessions. And then I have this print statement. This print statement basically says, well, invoice, I want to print the invoice and their respective days of outstanding for those invoices being outstanding there, and also the status of those invoices. So, and you see there's a weird \t here. And what this means in Python is, this means it's a tab space. So instead of a regular space, this is the tab space. This is equivalent to when you when you hit the tab button on your keyboard in Microsoft Word. This is what this \t stands for. And then I want to separate the title from my data. So I basically have this hyphen here, and then I want to create 40 hyphens to separate this from my data. So I can just simply do this hyphen and then multiply by 40. So I will create the 40 hyphens just immediately in the terminal. And then I have this for loop. Within this for loop, I also use the method called enumerate. And what this does is, this basically means what it means literally. So it's basically taking the list variables I just created, invoice days, and then it's enumerate every element within the list. And also here, I have a number one here. So by default, when Python count anything, Python start count the first element being the position of 0. So, but in this case, because I'm presenting accounting or finance thing, so I wanted to count starting with the position number 1. And then when using enumerate, I can basically go over all the elements in that list, and automatically it will create element as part of enumerate, which is number I. You can name it any way you want. You don't have to call it letter I, and you can just call it count as well. But just by convention, I usually just use letter I to stand for the position of the element. And then, of course, the element itself is number of days outstanding. So I just name that another variable called days. So, and then within this for loop, I created this number like another if statement. If the days is greater than 60, so I want to basically feed the status basically being overdue. And if it's less than 60, this is okay. So, and then for each element within this list, I basically want to create this data record, essentially saying this data record, this is formatted print. And if you don't know what formatted print is, please Google it. So I do want to challenge you and Google it and try to learn what does the formatted print in Python mean. So I have this number here, and for every time I loop through, I want to say, okay, this number one invoice is how many days outstanding out there, and then giving a status, and then give a status if it's overdue or it's okay. So without further ado, let me run this program. You will see the result of this Python, this simple Python script. And here, let me explain a little further. We print invoice, and there is the tab space. So have days outstanding and the tab space status. And you see those hyphens times 40. This is the created 40 hyphens in here. And it started with the position number one. So for the position number one, basically my invoice number one, it says outstanding. I have 15 days outstanding. And 15 days is less than 60, right? So this is okay. Now the enumerator and the for loop will go to the next one, basically saying, well, 45 days is still okay. But the next one, the third invoice, which is 62 days, and this is correctly processed as overdue, based on the if statement within the for loop. So this is how it works.